I turned 65 that morning, and I remember thinking this would be a quiet day. No noise. No surprises. Just another year added to a life that had already seen enough. But I was wrong. Because what happened that day did not just change my birthday. It changed everything I believed about my own family. It started with a card. My daughter walked in slowly, holding it in both hands. There was something unusual about the way she held it. Not careless. Not light. Almost like it carried weight. I smiled without thinking. That is what parents do. We smile even before we know what is coming. She did not smile back. That was the first thing that felt wrong. She handed me the card and said, "Read it when you are alone." Not happy birthday. Not even a hug. Just that. I laughed a little, trying to keep the mood normal. I asked why I could not read it right there. She did not answer. She just looked at me, and for a second, I felt something I had never felt before when looking at my own child. Fear. Then she walked away. I stood there holding the card, telling myself I was overthinking. Maybe it was something emotional. Maybe she had written something personal. Still, something did not sit right. I went to my room and closed the door. That was the moment everything started to fall apart. I sat down slowly and looked at the envelope. My name was written in her handwriting. I knew every curve of it. Every letter felt familiar. But the pressure of the pen, it looked heavier. I opened it carefully. Inside was a simple birthday message. "Happy birthday. Thank you for everything." I exhaled. For a second, I almost felt foolish. I told myself this was normal. I was reading too much into nothing. Then I noticed something. There was a pause in the sentence. A space where it did not belong. I leaned closer. The ink looked slightly darker in one part. I tilted the card toward the light. That is when I saw it. There was another message, hidden beneath the first one. My hands froze. I moved the card closer to the window, trying to catch the light at a better angle. And then, I read it. "If you are reading this alone, do not trust anyone in this house." My chest tightened. I read it again. Slowly. Carefully. The words did not change. My daughter had written that. Or someone had made it look like she did. My mind started racing. I stood up immediately and opened the door. I wanted to call her name. But something stopped me. That message echoed in my head. Do not trust anyone in this house. Anyone. That included everyone. Even the people I had lived with for years. Even the people I thought I knew. I stepped back into the room and locked the door. My hands were shaking now. I looked at the card again. There had to be more. There had to be something I was missing. I checked the envelope again. Nothing. I flipped the card over. Blank. Then I noticed the edge. It looked slightly thicker than usual. I pressed it gently. Something was inside. My breath slowed. I carefully pulled the inner lining apart. A tiny folded piece of paper slipped out. I stared at it for a long moment. Because deep down, I already knew this was not going to be something small. I opened it. And what I read next made me question everything. "There is a name you must remember." I felt a chill run through my entire body. Because I already had a feeling. I knew that name. And if I was right, then this was not just a message. This was a warning. And I was already too late. Before I tell you what name was written on that paper, you need to understand one thing. When I read it, I realized the danger was not outside. It was already inside my home. And the person behind it was someone I trusted the most. I did not open the door again. Not after reading that second note. I stood there, holding that small piece of paper, feeling something shift inside me. Not fear alone, something sharper. Something that made me think differently about every single person under that roof. I read the line again. "There is a name you must remember." But the name itself was missing. Or at least it looked missing. The paper was not blank. It had faint pressure marks, like something had been written and then erased. I moved quickly. I turned off the lights and brought the paper close to the window. Then I tilted it, slowly, carefully. Lines began to appear. Very faint, but enough. I traced the marks with my eyes, letter by letter. And then I saw it. A name. My throat went dry. Because it was not a stranger. It was someone I had trusted for years. Someone who had been sitting at my table. Someone who had shared meals with me. Someone who knew my routines, my habits, my weaknesses. I stepped back. "No, this cannot be right," I said under my breath. But the more I looked at the name, the more it made sense. Small things. Moments I had ignored. Words that felt off at the time, but I dismissed. Now they came rushing back. And they did not feel small anymore. I folded the paper carefully and slipped it into my pocket. Then I picked up my phone. I called my daughter. The call did not go through. I tried again. And again. Nothing. No ringing. No response. Just silence. That silence felt louder than anything I had ever heard. I opened the door slowly and stepped into the hallway. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Voices from the living room. The sound of utensils from the kitchen. A television playing in the background. Life going on as if nothing had changed. But everything had. I walked toward the living room. Every step felt heavy. Every face I saw, I questioned. Were they acting? Did they know? Or worse, were they part of it? Someone looked at me and smiled. I forced myself to smile back. That was the moment I realized something important. I could not react. Not yet. If the message was true, then someone here was watching me. And if they knew I had read it, I might never find out the truth. I sat down quietly, trying to act normal. Someone asked me if I liked the card. I nodded. I said it was beautiful. My voice did not shake. That surprised me. Inside, everything was shaking. I kept observing, listening. Every word felt like it had another meaning behind it. Then something strange happened. The same person whose name I had just read looked straight at me and held eye contact a second longer than usual. Not friendly, not warm, just watching. I looked away. I needed to get out of there. I stood up and said I needed some air. No one stopped me. That made it worse. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. For the first time since reading the card, I could breathe, but not for long, because the questions started hitting me all at once. Why would my daughter hide a message like that? Why would she not say anything directly? And where was she now? I took out my phone again. This time, I checked her last message. It was from the previous night. Simple. Normal. Too normal. That was when I noticed something I had missed before. There was a typo. She never made typing mistakes. Never. I opened the message again. Looked closer. The typo was not random. It looked like a misplaced letter. Or maybe a signal. My heart started racing again. I typed the letters separately, rearranged them, and suddenly, it formed a word. The same word that was connected to the name I had just seen. This was not coincidence. This was planned. Carefully, I leaned against the wall, trying to stay steady. My daughter knew something. She was trying to tell me without alerting anyone, which meant one thing. She was in danger, and she believed I was too. I walked a few steps away from the house and turned back. For the first time, it did not feel like home. It felt like a place filled with secrets. I needed help. But who could I trust? The message was clear. No one in the house. That left very few options. I thought about the police. But what would I say? That I found a hidden message in a birthday card? That I suspected someone close to me? Without proof, they would not take it seriously. Or worse, they might alert the wrong person. No, I had to be careful. I looked down at the card again. There had to be more. There was always more. I ran my fingers along the edges once again. This time, I felt something different. A slight ridge near the corner. I pressed it, and a tiny piece of the card shifted. Another hidden layer. My hands moved faster now. I pulled it open. Inside, there was one more line. Short, direct, and it changed everything. Check the old locker. Before it is too late. I froze. The old locker. I had not opened it in years. No one even talked about it anymore. Which meant, whoever wrote this message knew my past. Knew things no outsider could know. This was getting deeper. Much deeper. I folded everything back carefully and hid it. Then I looked at the house one more time. I knew I had to go back inside. Act normal. Wait. Watch. Because if I made one wrong move, I might lose the only chance I had to find my daughter. And the truth. But as I reached for the door handle, I felt something I could not ignore. A presence behind me. I turned slowly. Someone was standing there, watching me, not saying a word. And in that moment, I realized something far more dangerous. I was not the only one who had stepped outside to think. Someone else was already trying to figure out what I knew. I did not react. Not when I saw them standing there behind me. I forced my face to stay calm, almost tired, like someone who had simply stepped out for fresh air. They did not speak. They just watched me. That silence between us felt stretched, heavy, like both of us were waiting for the other to make a mistake. I nodded slightly, as if nothing was wrong, and reached for the door. I was just getting some air, I said. My voice sounded steady. Too steady. They studied me for a second longer, then gave a small, controlled smile. The kind of smile that does not reach the eyes. I thought so, they said, and then they stepped aside, letting me go in first. That small detail stayed with me, letting me go first so they could watch my back. I walked inside slowly, every step measured. I could feel it now. This was no longer a feeling. This was a game. And I had just realized I was already inside it. I did not go back to the living room. Instead, I turned toward my room again. I needed space. I needed to think. And more than anything, I needed to get to that locker. But not yet. Not while everyone was awake. Not while eyes were on me. I closed the door behind me and locked it again. Then I took out the card. Every piece of it. The main message. The hidden line. The second paper. The name. And that last instruction. Check the old locker. I sat down and tried to connect everything. The name on that paper. The strange message. The typo in her last text. All of it pointed in one direction. This was not random. This had been planned over time, which meant my daughter had known something for a while, and she had been hiding it. Not from strangers. From people inside this house. That thought alone made my chest tighten. I stood up suddenly. I could not sit still anymore. I walked to the window and looked outside. Everything looked normal. Cars passing. Neighbors talking. Life moving forward like nothing was wrong. But inside this house, something had already broken. The old locker. I had not thought about it in years. It was in the storage room at the back. A place no one used anymore. Dust. Old boxes. Forgotten things. Which made it the perfect place to hide something. Or to keep something buried. I checked the time. Too early. Too risky. I had to wait. Waiting felt like the hardest part. Because every minute that passed, my daughter was still out there. And I had no idea where. Hours went by slowly. Voices in the house faded one by one. Lights turned off. Doors closed. Silence started to settle in. That was my moment. I turned off my room light and waited a little longer. Just to be sure. Then I unlocked the door and stepped out. The hallway was dark. Quiet. I moved carefully, avoiding any sound. Every small noise felt louder than it should. I reached the back of the house. The storage room door was slightly open. That stopped me. I was sure I had seen it closed earlier. I stood there for a second. Listening. Nothing. No movement. No sound. Still something felt off. I pushed the door slowly. It creaked. I froze. Waited. Still nothing. I stepped inside. The air smelled old. Heavy. Like a place that had not been touched in a long time. But that was not true. Because I could see it. A box slightly moved. Dust disturbed. Someone had been here. Recently. My heart started pounding again. I was not the only one looking for answers. The locker was in the corner. Metal. Old. Scratched. I walked toward it slowly. Each step felt like it carried weight. Like I was walking toward something I could not undo. I knelt down and touched it. Cold. Unfamiliar. Even though it had once been mine. I reached for the handle. Then stopped. For a brief second. I hesitated. Because deep down, I knew this was the point where everything would change. Whatever was inside, there was no going back after this. I opened it. At first, nothing looked unusual. Old papers. Files. A few personal items. Things I had forgotten about. I started going through them quickly, one by one. Nothing. Then I saw it. A file I did not recognize. New. Too clean compared to everything else. I picked it up. Opened it. And my hands froze. Inside were documents. Legal documents. Property papers. But not in my name. Not in my daughter's name either. Someone else's name. The same name I had seen earlier. My stomach dropped. This was bigger than I thought. Much bigger. This was not just about her being missing. This was about control, ownership, money, and betrayal. I flipped through the papers faster now. Signatures. Dates. Everything looked real. Too real. Then I saw something that made my breath stop. My signature. On one of the documents. But I had never signed this. Never even seen it before. My hands started shaking. This was not just manipulation. This was a setup. A careful, detailed setup. And I was already part of it. Without even knowing. Then I heard it. A sound behind me. Soft. But clear. Footsteps. I turned quickly. The door was still open. And someone was standing there. Watching me. In the dark. I could not see their face clearly. But I did not need to. Because I already knew. They stepped forward slowly. And this time they did not smile. You were not supposed to find that, they said. My grip on the file tightened. My mind started racing. I needed to say something. Anything. But before I could speak, they took another step closer. And said something that changed everything again. She should not have trusted you with the truth. My heart stopped for a moment. Because that meant one thing. My daughter had told them. Or worse, they had found out. I stood there, holding the file, realizing something I had not considered before. This was not just about hiding the truth. This was about controlling it. And if I was already part of their plan, then I was not just in danger. I was already trapped. Inside it. And the worst part? I still did not know where my daughter was. But now, I knew something far more terrifying. Whoever was standing in front of me knew exactly where she was. I did not drop the file, even when they stepped closer. Even when the distance between us disappeared, I held it tighter, because something inside me had shifted. Fear was still there, but it was no longer leading me. Now there was something else. A need to know everything, no matter the cost. You were not supposed to find that. Their voice stayed calm, too calm, as if this moment had already been expected, as if I was late, not early. I looked straight at them. For how long? I asked. They did not answer immediately. That silence again. Always that silence before something dangerous. For how long has this been going on? I repeated. This time they smiled. But it was different. Not hidden. Not controlled. Open. Cold. Long enough, they said. I felt my grip tighten around the papers. My name. My signature. Documents I had never seen. And now, this person standing in front of me like none of it mattered. Where is my daughter? The words came out sharper than I expected. For a moment, something changed in their expression. Not fear. Not guilt. Something closer to irritation. You should be asking a different question, they said quietly. My chest rose slowly. No, I replied. That is the only question that matters. They took another step closer. Now there was barely any space between us. You think this is about her? They asked. That sentence hit harder than anything else. Because it carried something beneath it. Something darker. If this is not about her, then why is she missing? I said. Their eyes locked onto mine. And then they said it. She is not missing. Everything inside me stopped. For a second, I thought I heard it wrong. What did you say? I said she is not missing. Understood. My mind could not process it. If she was not missing, then where was she? And why the messages? Why the warning? Why the fear in her eyes? You are lying, I said. But even as I said it, something inside me was not sure anymore. They tilted their head slightly. No, they replied. You just do not understand yet. Underscore. That was when I realized something dangerous. They were not afraid of me knowing. They were waiting for it. Waiting for me to reach this point. Which meant everything I had done so far, every step, every discovery, might have been exactly what they wanted. I took a step back, for the first time since this started. Not out of fear, but to think. If this was planned, then I was already inside something much bigger. Something I could not see fully yet. Then explain it, I said. Explain the card. Explain the message. Explain why she told me not to trust anyone. Underscore. They looked at the card in my hand, then back at me. And for a brief moment, their expression changed again. Not anger, not control, something else. Something close to frustration. She always had a habit of making things dramatic, they said. That sentence felt wrong. Completely wrong. Because I knew my child. And that was not true. No, I said quietly. You are not telling me the truth. This time, their patience broke. I saw it clearly. A shift. A crack. You want the truth? They said, voice sharper now. Then listen carefully. Understood. I did not move. I did not speak. I just waited. Because I knew this was it. This was the moment something real would come out. She found out about the papers, they said. My eyes dropped to the file. Then back to them. She was not supposed to. They continued. But she did. My heart started beating faster again. And when she did, she tried to stop it. A cold feeling spread through my chest. How? I asked. They took a slow breath, and then said something that changed everything again. She went to the police. The world around me felt like it shifted. The police? She reported it, they said. She thought she could fix everything. I felt something break inside me. Because now, the pieces were starting to connect. The hidden message, the warning, the fear. She was trying to protect me. I whispered. They did not respond. But their silence confirmed it. And now? I asked. Where is she now? They looked at me for a long moment. Longer than before. And this time, there was no smile. No control. Just something heavy. She made a mistake, they said. And mistakes have consequences. My hands clenched. That is not an answer. They stepped even closer. Close enough that I could feel their breath. You are asking the wrong questions again, they said quietly. I felt anger rise now. Real anger. Then tell me the right one. I snapped. They leaned in slightly and whispered something that made everything worse. Ask what she found. I froze. Because that meant there was more. Much more. What did she find? I asked slowly. They looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something real. Not control. Not confidence. Fear. And that scared me more than anything else. Because if they were afraid, then whatever my daughter had found was bigger than both of us. But before I could ask anything else, something unexpected happened. A loud knock. From the front door. Both of us turned. At the same time. Another knock. Harder this time. Voices followed. Clear. Official. Open the door. Police. Everything inside me dropped. I looked back at them. Their expression had changed completely now. No control. No calm. Just tension. And in that moment, I realized something I had not considered before. This was no longer hidden. This was no longer quiet. Whatever my daughter had started had reached the surface. And now, there was no way to stop it. But as the knocking grew louder and footsteps moved toward the door, one thought stayed in my mind. If the police were here, then why did it feel like I was the one about to be exposed? Because deep down, I already knew the answer. I was not just a witness in this story. I was part of the case. The knocking did not stop. Each hit on the door felt louder than the last. Whoever was outside was not going to leave. I looked at them. They looked back at me. For the first time since this started, neither of us spoke. Because both of us understood something at the same moment. This had moved beyond control. Footsteps rushed from the hallway. Someone inside the house was already going to open the door. I closed the locker quickly and stood up. The file was still in my hand. I had seconds. Only seconds to decide what to do. Hide it. Or hold on to it. I chose to hold it. Because hiding it now would mean losing the only proof I had. The front door opened. Voices filled the house. Firm. Direct. Official. Police. I stepped out of the storage room. They were already inside. 2 officers stood in the living room. Another one near the entrance. Their eyes moved quickly, scanning everything. Then they landed on me. You need to come with us, one of them said. No greeting. No explanation. Just that. I felt every eye in the house turn toward me. Confusion. Shock. But behind some of those faces, something else. Something hidden. I stepped forward slowly. On what basis? I asked. The officer looked at the file in my hand. Then back at me. You are being accused of fraudulent property transfer and coercion, he said. The words hit hard. But not because they were unexpected. Because they were planned. This was it. This was the setup. My name. My signature. The documents. Everything was already in place. And now it was being used. I did not sign these, I said, holding the file up. The officer did not react. We can discuss that at the station, he replied. Behind him, I saw movement. That same person. Watching. Silent. And then, something small. A slight nod. Not to me. To the officer. That was enough. That told me everything. This was not just happening. This was arranged. I took a breath. I will come, I said. No resistance. No panic. Because I understood something now. If I fought here, I would lose immediately. I needed time. I needed to see how deep this went. I needed to understand what my daughter had found. They took the file from my hand. That hurt more than anything. Because that was my only proof. Or so I thought. As they turned to leave, I glanced once more at the room. At every face. Trying to read something. Trying to find any sign of truth. But all I saw were masks. I walked out of my own house like a stranger. Neighbors were watching. Whispers had already started. It spread fast. Faster than truth ever does. They placed me in the vehicle. The door shut. And just like that, everything I had built in my life started collapsing. The ride was quiet. No one spoke. But my mind would not stop. Fraud. coercion, legal charges. They were not small accusations. They were serious. Serious enough to destroy everything. And someone had prepared this carefully. Too carefully. The station was not far, but it felt like a different world. They led me inside, sat me down, and placed the file in front of another officer. This one looked older, more experienced. He opened the file slowly, turned the pages, studied each document, then looked at me. "These are your signatures?" he asked. "No," I replied. He held the paper closer. "They match your official records." "That does not make them real," I said. He leaned back slightly, watching me, measuring something. "You are saying all of this is false?" "Yes." "And you have proof?" That question stayed in the air, because the truth was, I did not. Not yet. But I had something else. A message. A warning. A trail. "My daughter," I said. She knew something. The officer's expression did not change. "Where is she now?" he asked. That question again. But now it sounded different. Colder. More official. "I do not know," I said. "And that is part of the problem." He wrote something down, then closed the file. "You are in a difficult position," he said. That was an understatement. "You are being accused by someone very close to you." My chest tightened. I already knew who it was, but hearing it confirmed made it heavier. "Who?" I asked. He paused, just for a second, then said the name. The same name I had seen on that paper. The same name I had hoped was wrong. But it was not. It was real. And now, it was official. I closed my eyes briefly, not out of weakness, but to steady myself. Because this was no longer suspicion. This was open betrayal. "They are claiming you forced them to sign over property," the officer continued. "That you manipulated documents. That you acted without consent." Each word felt like it was being placed carefully, like bricks building a wall around me. "That is not true," I said. "They have evidence," he replied. "Of course they did. Because they created it." The officer leaned forward slightly. "You need to understand something," he said. "This is not just a family dispute anymore." I looked at him. "This is a legal case." I already knew that, but hearing it said like that made it real in a different way. "This will go to court," he added. And there it was. The next stage. The place where truth is supposed to come out. Or get buried deeper. I sat there quietly, letting it settle. Because now, I had two battles. One to clear my name, and one to find my daughter. And both were connected. The officer stood up. "You will be released for now," he said. "But do not leave the city." I nodded. Because I was not going anywhere. Not until I knew everything. Not until I found her. As I walked out of the station, something felt different. Not lighter. Not easier. Clearer. Because now I knew the truth. This was not just about documents. This was about control. And someone had decided. I was the perfect person to blame. But they made one mistake. They thought I would not fight back. They thought I would break. They thought I would accept it. They were wrong. Because now, this was no longer just their plan. This was my fight. And I was not stepping back. Not now. Not ever. The courtroom felt colder than I expected. Not because of the air. Because of the way people looked at me. I could feel it before I even sat down. Judgment. Doubt. Whispers that stopped the moment I turned my head. News had already spread. The story had already been shaped. And in that version, I was guilty. I took my seat slowly. My lawyer sat beside me, flipping through documents with calm focus. I watched the room instead. Because I needed to see them. The person who had done this. They were already there. Sitting across from me. Not hiding. Not avoiding. Calm. Composed. As if this was just another day. Our eyes met. And this time, they did not look away. There was no fear. No hesitation. Only confidence. That confidence told me something dangerous. They believed they would win. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Then sat again. And just like that, it began. The charges were read out loud. Each word clear. Each accusation sharp. Fraud. Forgery. Coercion. It sounded heavy. Because it was. And every time my name was spoken with those words, it felt like something was being taken from me. My lawyer leaned slightly toward me. "Stay calm," they whispered. I nodded. Because calm was all I had left. The opposing lawyer stood up. Confident. Prepared. And then, they started building their version of the story. Piece by piece. They spoke about trust. About betrayal. About how someone had taken advantage of family bonds. They did not say my name at first. But everyone knew who they meant. Then they said it. And everything pointed at me. I listened. Quietly. Because interrupting would not help. They presented documents. The same ones I had seen. the same forged signatures, the same papers that now carried weight in a court of law, each one placed in front of the judge, each one strengthening their case. Then came the statements, claims that I had pressured, that I had controlled, that I had forced decisions. It was a complete picture, clean, convincing, and completely false. My lawyer stood up, and for the first time my side was heard. They questioned the documents, raised doubts, pointed out inconsistencies. But I could feel it. It was not enough. Not yet. Because the evidence looked real. Too real. The judge listened carefully, taking notes, watching both sides. Then something shifted. The opposing lawyer called their first witness. And when I saw who stood up, everything inside me tightened. It was them. The same person. The same name. The one who had accused me. They walked to the stand calmly, took the oath, and sat down. No hesitation. No sign of stress. As if they had practiced this moment. They began speaking, and every word felt calculated. They spoke about trust, about how I had slowly taken control of decisions, about how I had isolated them, about how I had made them sign documents without full understanding. It was detailed, structured, believable, and completely twisted. I clenched my hands together, not in anger, in control, because reacting now would only make things worse. Then came something I was not ready for. They mentioned my daughter, said she had been worried, said she had tried to speak up, said she had feared me. That sentence hit harder than anything else, because it attacked something deeper. Not just my name, but my relationship, my identity as a parent. I looked at my lawyer. They were already writing notes, preparing, waiting, because our turn would come. But inside me, something had already shifted again. This was not just legal anymore. This was personal, deeply personal. The testimony continued. More details, more claims, more pressure building against me. And then, they said something that made everything stop. She is missing because of them. The courtroom went silent. Every head turned toward me. I felt it. That shift. From doubt to suspicion. From suspicion to something darker. My lawyer stood immediately. Objection, they said. The judge raised a hand. Silence. Then a brief discussion. Low voices. Tension in the air. The statement was allowed, but noted. That was enough. Because once something is heard, it cannot be unheard. I sat there, still, but inside, everything was moving fast. They had just connected me to my daughter's disappearance. Publicly, in court. That was not just strategy. That was a move, a strong one, and it changed the direction of everything. The session paused shortly after. A break. People started moving, talking, looking, and all of those looks came back to me. Different now, heavier. My lawyer turned to me. They are pushing hard, they said. I nodded. I know. Do not react, they added. I will handle the legal side. But you need to stay controlled. Controlled. That word again. I had been controlled since the beginning. But now, I needed to take something back. Even if it was just clarity. I have something, I said quietly. They looked at me. What? The card, I said. And the message inside it. They paused, listening carefully. I explained everything. Every detail. Every hidden line. Every clue. Their expression changed. Not fully convinced, but interested. That could help, they said. But we need proof it is real. I nodded. Because that was the problem. Everything I had was truth, but not yet proof. And in a courtroom, truth without proof means nothing. The break ended. We returned to our seats. The judge came back. The session resumed. And just like that, the pressure returned. Stronger than before. But now, I had something they did not expect. A message, a warning, a trail, and somewhere inside it, the truth they were trying to hide. But as I sat there, listening, watching, one thought stayed clear in my mind. If they were this confident, then they believed I had nothing that could stop them. And that meant one thing. They had not found everything yet. Which meant, I was still one step ahead. But not for long. Because I could feel it. The next move was going to decide everything. The second day in court felt heavier than the first. Not because of new evidence. Because of what had already been said. Once a story is planted in people's minds, it starts growing on its own. And now, I could feel it everywhere. In the way people looked at me. In the silence when I walked in. In the distance my own lawyer kept, not physically, but mentally. They were still with me. But now they were also calculating risk. That was the reality. I was no longer just a client. I was a case that could collapse. The session began quickly. No delay. No softness. The opposing side came prepared again. Stronger, sharper. And this time, they brought something new. A recorded statement. My heart tightened the moment I heard that. Because recordings sound real, feel real, even when they are not. They played it. A voice filled the courtroom. Mine, or something very close to it. I felt the air leave my chest. The words were clear, pressuring, demanding, talking about property, control, signatures. It sounded like me, but it was not. I knew it, but knowing was not enough. Because everyone else was hearing something different. They were hearing proof. I looked at my lawyer. They were already writing. Fast, focused, but I could see it. Even they were shaken. Because this was strong. Very strong. The recording ended. Silence followed. Then whispers. Then eyes turning back toward me. Again. Always back to me. Do you deny this voice is yours? The opposing lawyer asked. I stood slowly. Yes, I said. No hesitation. No pause. Because this was not confusion. This was certainty. They smiled slightly. As expected, they said. Then they sat down. As if that answer was already part of their plan. My lawyer stood next. They challenged the recording. Questioned its source. Its timing. Its authenticity. But I could feel it. The damage was already done. Because doubt had been planted. And doubt spreads faster than truth. The judge took notes. Carefully. Watching both sides. But their expression remained unreadable. That was the hardest part. Not knowing which way things were leaning. Then came the next blow. Documents. More documents. Financial records. Transfers. Dates that aligned too perfectly. Everything pointed in one direction. Toward me. I sat there. Still. But inside, something was starting to break. Not my belief. Not my truth. But my control. Because no matter what I said, no matter what I knew, everything around me was being shaped against me. And then it happened. A moment I had not expected. My lawyer leaned toward me. Very slightly. And said something that changed everything again. If we cannot counter this, we may lose. Those words stayed in my head. Echoing. Not loud. But constant. Lose. What did losing mean here? Not just the case. Everything. My name. My freedom. My daughter. I closed my eyes for a brief second. And that was when it came back. The card. Not the message. Not the warning. Something else. Something I had ignored. A small detail. Too small at the time. But now, it felt different. I opened my eyes. And leaned toward my lawyer. There is something I missed, I said quietly. They looked at me. What? The card, I said. There was more to it. They frowned slightly. You already told me everything. Underscore. No, I said. I told you what I saw. That got their attention. What do you mean? They asked. I took a slow breath. Trying to remember. Every detail. Every line. Every mark. There was a space, I said. In the main message. They waited. Listening. It did not belong there. I continued. And I ignored it. Their expression changed. Slightly. You think it means something? They asked. I do not think, I said. I know. Because now it made sense. That space was not a mistake. It was intentional. Just like everything else. What could it be? They asked. A code, I replied. They leaned back slightly. Thinking. Calculating. If that is true, they said slowly. Then we need to prove it. I nodded. But inside, I already knew something else. This was not just a code. This was a message hidden in plain sight. And I had missed it. Which meant there could be more things I had missed. The session continued. But now my focus had shifted. I was no longer just defending myself. I was searching. Searching through memory. Through moments. Through details that once felt small, but now felt critical. Because somewhere in all of this, my daughter had left a path. And I had only seen the beginning of it. The court adjourned for the day. But this time, I did not feel defeated. I felt something else. Direction. Because now I had a new lead. And if I was right, this could change everything. But as I walked out of the courtroom, one thought stayed with me. If I had missed something so obvious before, what else had I failed to see? And more importantly, who else already knew about it? Because if they did, then I was not catching up. I was already behind. And time was running out. I did not go home after court. Not that day. I could not. That place no longer felt safe or honest. Instead, I sat in the car for a long time, replaying everything in my mind. The card, the space in the sentence, the hidden message, the second note, the locker, the documents. Each piece felt connected, but not fully clear. Not yet. I took the card out again, carefully, like it might break if I rushed. I placed it on my lap and stared at it. Happy birthday. Thank you for everything. That was the visible message. Simple, clean. But now I looked at it differently. Not as a message, as a puzzle. My eyes focused on the gap, that unnatural space, between two words. It was not random. It was placed. Intentionally. I ran my finger over it slowly. Then I noticed something else. The letters around that space looked slightly uneven. Not in shape. In pressure. Some were pressed harder. Some lighter. I leaned closer. Heart steady. Mind sharp. Because now, I knew I was close. I wrote the sentence down on a separate paper, exactly as it appeared. Then I marked the letters with deeper ink. One by one, a pattern began to form. Not immediately, but slowly, carefully. And then it clicked. Those letters were not part of the sentence. They were separate, a hidden word. I rearranged them. Once, twice. Then it formed clearly. A location. My breath stopped for a moment. Because I knew that place. Not well, but enough. And more than that, it connected to the name. Everything was linking together now. The name, the message, the location. This was not just a warning. This was direction. My daughter had not just tried to alert me. She had guided me, step by step, without anyone noticing. Until now. I started the car. No hesitation. No delay. Because waiting had already cost too much. The location was not far. But it was not familiar either. Quiet area. Less crowded. Less attention. The kind of place where things could happen without being seen. As I drove, my mind kept racing. If I was right, then I was about to find something real. Something undeniable. But there was also another thought. A darker one. What if I was too late? I reached the place just before sunset. The light was fading. Shadows growing longer. Everything looked still. Too still. I stepped out of the car slowly. Looked around. No movement. No sound. Just silence. The location led me to a building. Old. Partially used. Not abandoned. But not active either. The kind of place people ignore. Which made it perfect. I walked toward it. Each step careful. Measured. Because I did not know what I would find inside. Or who. The door was not locked. That alone was enough to raise every alarm in my mind. I pushed it open slowly. It made a soft sound. Then I stepped inside. The air was heavy. Still. Like nothing had moved in a while. But that was not true. Because I saw it. Clear. Do not move. The room filled with chaos. They stepped back. Hands raised slowly. And just like that, the control was gone. One officer rushed to me. Cut the ropes. I stood up. Unsteady, but standing. They were taken. Pulled away. Still silent. Still watching me. And as they passed, they said one last thing. You are still not done. I felt it. That sentence. Because deep down, I knew they were right. This was not over. Not yet. Because one question still remained. If my daughter was alive, then where was she? And what had she seen that made all of this happen? I stood there, trying to steady myself as everything moved around me. Voices, footsteps, commands. But none of it mattered. Because only one question stayed in my mind. Where was my daughter? They said she is alive, I told the officer beside me. My voice was not calm anymore. It carried urgency. Need. The officer looked at me briefly. We know, they said. And we are already acting on it. That was not enough. Not for me. I need to go with you, I said. You cannot, they replied. Not yet. Not yet. Those words felt like a delay I could not afford. They will find her, they added. I wanted to believe that. I tried to. But after everything that had happened, belief was no longer easy. They escorted me outside. The night air hit differently now. Colder. Sharper. Real. Vehicles. Lights. Movement everywhere. The person who had done all of this was being taken away. Hands restrained. No more control. No more calm. But even now, they looked at me once more. And that look carried something I could not ignore. Not defeat. Something else. As if a part of their plan was still in motion. I turned away. Because I could not afford doubt right now. Hours passed. Slowly. Painfully. I was taken back to the station. Not as an accused this time. As someone waiting. Waiting for news. Every minute felt longer than the last. Then finally, a door opened. An officer stepped in. And in that moment, I knew. You found her? I asked. They nodded. My legs almost gave in. Where? I asked. A safe location, they said. She is alive. That was enough. More than enough, but then they added something. She asked for you. That broke whatever control I had left. They took me there. No delay this time. The drive felt endless. Even though it was not. When we arrived, I did not wait. I stepped out before the vehicle fully stopped. Walked fast. Then faster. And then, I saw her. Sitting inside. Alive. Real. For a moment. I could not move. Because after everything, after the fear, after the doubt, this felt unreal. She looked up. Saw me. And stood. No words. Just that moment. And then I moved. Closed the distance. Held her. Tight. Not letting go. Because I did not know how close I had come to losing this. I knew you would understand, she said quietly. Her voice was steady, but I could feel everything behind it. I almost did not, I admitted. She pulled back slightly. Looked at me. But you did, she said. I nodded. Tell me everything, I said. And she did. Not all at once. But enough. The accounts. The hidden transfers. The way my name was used without me knowing. The plan to shift everything quietly. And when she found out, she knew she could not confront it directly. They were watching, she said. So she used the only safe way she had. The card. The message. The clues. I knew you would see it, she said. I shook my head slightly. I almost missed it. But you did not, she replied. And that was the difference. Days later, the case returned to court. But this time, everything had changed. New evidence. Real evidence. The accounts she had found. The connections. The truth. And most importantly, her statement. Clear. Direct. Undeniable. The story that had been built against me started falling apart. Piece by piece. The same confidence they once had was gone. Replaced by something else. Silence. The final decision came. Clear. I was cleared of all charges. Not because of luck. Because of truth. And the person behind everything faced the consequences. Real ones. Not hidden. Not delayed. As it should have been. Life did not return to normal after that. It changed. Because trust. once broken, never returns the same way. But something else replaced it. Awareness, strength, and a different kind of clarity. I looked at my daughter one evening, the same person who had handed me that card. But now, I saw more. Not just my child. Someone who had faced something dangerous and did not step back. You saved me, I said. She shook her head. No, she replied. You chose to see the truth. And maybe that was the real lesson. Because sometimes the truth is right in front of us, hidden in plain sight, waiting. And all it takes is one moment, one choice, to finally see it. If you made it this far, then you already know this was not just a story. It was a reminder. Pay attention, because not every danger looks like a threat, and not every warning comes loudly. Sometimes it comes quietly, in something as simple as a card. If you want more stories like this, watch the next one, because some truths are still waiting to be found. Clear. Understood. Do not move. The room filled with chaos. They stepped back. Hands raised slowly. And just like that, the control was gone. One officer rushed to me. Cut the ropes. I stood up. Unsteady, but standing. They were taken. Pulled away. Still silent. Still watching me. And as they passed, they said one last thing. You are still not done. I felt it. That sentence. Because deep down, I knew they were right. This was not over. Not yet. Because one question still remained. If my daughter was alive, then where was she? And what had she seen that made all of this happen? I stood there, trying to steady myself as everything moved around me. Voices, footsteps, commands. But none of it mattered. Because only one question stayed in my mind. Where was my daughter? They said she is alive, I told the officer beside me. My voice was not calm anymore. It carried urgency. Need. The officer looked at me briefly. We know, they said. And we are already acting on it. That was not enough. Not for me. I need to go with you, I said. You cannot, they replied. Not yet. Not yet. Those words felt like a delay I could not afford. They will find her, they added. I wanted to believe that. I tried to. But after everything that had happened, belief was no longer easy. They escorted me outside. The night air hit differently now. Colder. Sharper. Real. Vehicles. Lights. Movement everywhere. The person who had done all of this was being taken away. Hands restrained. No more control. No more calm. But even now, they looked at me once more. And that look carried something I could not ignore. Not defeat. Something else. As if a part of their plan was still in motion. I turned away. Because I could not afford doubt right now. Hours passed. Slowly. Painfully. I was taken back to the station. Not as an accused this time. As someone waiting. Waiting for news. Every minute felt longer than the last. Then finally, a door opened. An officer stepped in. And in that moment, I knew. You found her? I asked. They nodded. My legs almost gave in. Where? I asked. A safe location, they said. She is alive. That was enough. More than enough, but then they added something. She asked for you. That broke whatever control I had left. They took me there. No delay this time. The drive felt endless. Even though it was not. When we arrived, I did not wait. I stepped out before the vehicle fully stopped. Walked fast. Then faster. And then, I saw her. Sitting inside. Alive. Real. For a moment. I could not move. Because after everything, after the fear, after the doubt, this felt unreal. She looked up. Saw me. And stood. No words. Just that moment. And then I moved. Closed the distance. Held her. Tight. Not letting go. Because I did not know how close I had come to losing this. I knew you would understand, she said quietly. Her voice was steady, but I could feel everything behind it. I almost did not, I admitted. She pulled back slightly. Looked at me. But you did, she said. I nodded. Tell me everything, I said. And she did. Not all at once. But enough. The accounts. The hidden transfers. The way my name was used without me knowing. The plan to shift everything quietly. And when she found out, she knew she could not confront it directly. They were watching, she said. So she used the only safe way she had. The card. The message. The clues. I knew you would see it, she said. I shook my head slightly. I almost missed it. But you did not, she replied. And that was the difference. Days later, the case returned to court. But this time, everything had changed. New evidence. Real evidence. The accounts she had found. The connections. The truth. And most importantly, her statement. Clear. Direct. Undeniable. The story that had been built against me started falling apart. Piece by piece. The same confidence they once had was gone. Replaced by something else. Silence. The final decision came. Clear. I was cleared of all charges. Not because of luck. Because of truth. And the person behind everything faced the consequences. Real ones. Not hidden. Not delayed. As it should have been. Life did not return to normal after that. It changed. Because trust, once broken, never returns the same way. But something else replaced it. Awareness. Strength. And a different kind of clarity. I looked at my daughter one evening. The same person who had handed me that card. But now, I saw more. Not just my child. Someone who had faced something dangerous and did not step back. You saved me, I said. She shook her head. No, she replied. You chose to see the truth. And maybe that was the real lesson. Because sometimes, the truth is right in front of us. Hidden in plain sight. Waiting. And all it takes is one moment. One choice. To finally see it. If you made it this far, then you already know, this was not just a story. It was a reminder. Pay attention. Because not every danger looks like a threat. And not every warning comes loudly. Sometimes, it comes quietly. In something as simple as a card. If you want more stories like this, watch the next one. Because some truths are still waiting to be found.